Welcome to Floor Planner. This is your Advanced Tools Demo 2023, and I always like to date these because Floor Planner keeps evolving and the program keeps getting better and better, but I want to have a point of reference. This recording is being made September 5th, 2023. So start with a little bit about PowerPoint presentation. In case you didn't know, my name is Bob. I am based here in the United States, here on the East Coast of the United States, a little coastal town, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Although Floor Planner is a European-based platform based out of the Netherlands, out of Rotterdam specifically, and being kind of a Dutch company that we are, not real big on job titles. So let's just say I'm here for customer success, here to support you all as we go forward into our advanced tools webinar today. Advanced, we're going on the assumption that you have all at least attended my intro webinar or are comfortable utilizing Floor Planner, but there's more complicated architectures out there in the world, and we've got some tips and tricks for you today as to how to work with them for different custom ceiling shapes, multiple floors, a lot of new features and some new tools that are available too. So I'm going to try to share as many of them as possible today. A little bit about my background information. I am a licensed architect here in the United States. I'm licensed down in the state of Florida, also up in the state of New York. I've had the privilege of being a guest speaker at Autodesk University with communication, talking about how to communicate design intent ideas to others using different technologies, such as Floor Planner, with a baseline of storytelling, which comes from another part of my career path, working for the Walt Disney Company, where I worked on contributing to the designs of retail spaces for their locations at theme parks and resorts around the world. I've supported the interior design industry here in the United States as I specialize in interiors, managing and directing CAD departments, which primarily worked with other softwares, Autodesk, AutoCAD, 2D, 3D modeling, and 3ds Max visualization, until I found Floor Planner, as you all did also. Floor Planner was something I was looking for a very long time, trying to find sources to create CAD and visualization production faster. My clients always wanted it quicker and more beautiful. Although other softwares are phenomenal, they take time. And Floor Planner has a mastery of this kind of marriage between CAD, computer-aided drafting, and the gaming environment for real-time rendering. The depth of Floor Planner is, we're actually very broad. There are so many services inside Floor Planner. I will try to share many of them with you because this is an advanced tools webinar. Everything from, of course, the creation of your 3D model, your two-dimensional visuals of that 3D model, and all the way to full interactive real-time render experiences, virtual reality. We have Styleboards now. We also have our Floorscanner app for capturing as-built information utilizing your phone. Really, really great new technology. Currently, there's over 30 million registered users of Floor Planner around the world. And we have, we started back in 2007, so we have, over 16 years of development. And Floor Planner continues to develop. Floor Planner is not a stagnant program. You'll find that we evolve every month. The programmers over in the Netherlands, awesome team. They take full advantage of the technologies as they're coming available, find opportunities to implement them in the platforms as we support such a diverse group of users of Floor Planner, not just where we started with real estate professionals over there in Europe and surrounding countries, but then also interior designers, architects, builders, developers, educators, anyone that's communicating something about space and wants to have some beautiful visualization to communicate that to others. But you got to keep watch on Floor Planner. We've had as many as 5 advances in any given month in the past year. And we keep sharing that information. It happens instantaneously inside your platform. There's nothing you have to do. It just is there waiting for you the next time you open up Floor Planner, and we do share that information on your dashboard so you're aware of what it is. And of course, we have these recorded webinars and the live webinars to give you the most current information as we continue to evolve and give you a better product to use on your end. Outside of what we're talking about today, don't forget that you can go to our website, www.floorplanner.com. And inside there is a tab right at the top for support. If you select that tab at our website, you have all this additional information available to you, the recorded Floor Planner channel YouTube videos are available to you. And we're going to keep updating those and adding more. So you have more recorded sources out there. There's also a list out there. As I mentioned, there's advances that keep occurring. Product updates are listed here. There's actually a link here so you can see the most current updates and scroll through the past year if you like. There's also a manual, a reference manual, editor manual, PDF document that you can download from the cloud. Nice document to keep handy as you're developing your technique. There's also at least one important page in there for me anyway. It's a shortcut hotkey for your keyboard page. I would definitely print that out and work with that as you're developing your technique. The weekly live webinars on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, an intro webinar on Thursdays, advanced tools on Tuesdays, and something I'm enjoying every other week on Wednesdays, we're offering 2D, 3D camera settings for a little bit more advanced to talk about making those magazine quality renderings, some tips and tricks on setting your cameras appropriately. Also, in Floor Planner, you're never dead-ended. You have access to ask questions. There's a contact form over here that you have a link to. So you can send any of your concerns. If there's an observation or something technical, you can send a message straight away to the support team over in the Netherlands. You also have me here in the United States training purpose-wise to answer questions for you. You can send me emails at bob@floorplanner.com, my email, which I will post at the very end of this webinar, so you can take note of it. I do typically support the Pro account subscriptions up through Enterprise, but if any of our basic or Plus account subscriptions have a question that I can get you over a training hurdle, feel free, drop me also an email and I'll get you a message back. I want to talk for a moment, although I covered this in all of our intro webinars also, but I want to make sure that we're comfortable because again, there's a lot of diversity as to anybody that's viewing this, is that there's 6 different subscriptions in Floor Planner. There's a basic level, entry level free account to learn about Floor Planner. And then there's the paid for accounts plus all the way up through Enterprise. And the free account has what's called a project level of an SD Lite. SD Lites have limitations, although it's an incredible offering to learn about Floor Planner and use this free project level. You can only build one floor of a multi-story project as an SD Lite. You can only build one design per any one project as an SD Lite. Your exports, I'm going to talk in imperial dimensions for today, excuse me, 8.5 by 11 letters size sheet. And you can also print that out scale to fit with an OK resolution and also branded with the Floor Planner logo. When you start with the paid for project levels, which is a requirement of the pro accounts levels of subscription up through the enterprise level, you will all be starting your projects as SD level projects. I want to emphasize this because what we're going to be talking about with the advanced tools today are these features that are also included in the SD level. As an SD level project and higher, you can create up to a 7-story, multi-story project. And I think even more importantly is that you can create multiple designs. You can create up to 10 different designs per every floor of the same single project, which would give you about 70 different design options, all within the same one project. The only differences between the SD, HD, 4K, and 8K is the final resolution of the image that you're creating. So SD levels, great for production. They're lovely. HD level, we have found with working with some of our top 100 retailers here in the US that they have a preference for their client presentations to go ahead and put them out as the HD level as the pixel count. The resolution of these images are nicer, cleaner, crisper, and clients have a tendency to want to zoom in on detail, so it's also nice to have this additional pixel count. 4K and 8K, certainly higher levels of resolution that are available to you, all the way up to 8K, certainly for production or publication, the highest level of resolution as an 8K project. The projects that you create have also a added feature that you can uh, have as an a la carte add-on to a project, and it's called a 3D tour. And if you've been in my intro webinars, you've seen me talk about it. I'm going to talk about it again, but I'll actually show you an example of it today. Is that as a 3D tour, you can do that add-on to a project when you create a project, or during the lifespan of that project, you can always upgrade the project to include a 3D tour. The expense associated with that is 5 additional credits per one project. For that one-time add-on to that one project, what you're going to have the ability to do is to send your 3D model of one room or multiple rooms on a single floor, send that model out into the cloud as you would normally, and instead of getting back a JPEG, PNG, or a PDF document, now you're going to get back a hyperlink. Hyperlink has no weight to it. It's something that you can share through texting or go ahead and share it in your email, embed it into a Microsoft Word document, or embed it into a PowerPoint presentation as I have here. That hyperlink address, as it's embedded right here, there's the address for this particular one, will allow your intended viewer, your client, or whomever you're sharing that with to go ahead when they're connected to the internet, either through their phone, which it works really great on your phone, either through your phone or through your devices that you're working with, your tablets, your iPads, or your computers. And as long as you're connected to the internet, you will open that link. This will allow the client to go ahead and have access to view your 3D model. They can also move around inside your 3D model. Really cool feature about this is it's real-time render. You're not waiting for anything to render. It's kind of that gaming environment that they're moving around inside the space and investigating your design. Being an architect myself, I like to have a little more control. So I like to show my property the way I'd like it to be seen by me anyway. So the camera views that you create will also transfer with that in a pull-down menu to allow the intended viewer, your client, to go ahead and actually select the specific camera views as you created them. Plus, there's a play button in there. This is a video tour as directed by you based on the camera views you created and the order that you place the camera views, which is your story, how you want to present this property. And the client just hits the play button and Floor Planner does all the rest of the work for you and creates all the transitions between your still images. And they can just sit back hands-free and just get a video tour as you've directed it to be. These links also will open in Oculus goggles, now called Meta 2, and the new goggles that are coming out. Meta 3 is soon to be released, I believe, this fall. Floor Planner does work with those also to be fully immersed in a virtual reality experience. And another cool feature is that you can create multiple stories or multiple hyperlinks in the same one project for that same one fee. So if you chose to change your story, you could change the cameras that you created, change the order that you presented them in as into how you want to tell your story, and then send that out into the cloud again and get back another additional hyperlink, unlimited. You can make as many hyperlinks and different stories as you care to for this same one project. To showcase this, again, this is an embedded address. It just goes to this address, and I'm, of course, connected to the internet. So we're going to go out to the cloud. Starts with a preview page out there, which you can also brand. And actually, right now, I am in the cloud inside my project, real-time render. And I could choose to navigate. I am using a Windows PC right now with a mouse and keyboard. So if I click on any other space across the way, I can actually teleport myself to another point. If you're doing this on your phone or on a tablet, you certainly could use your finger or use a stylus or an Apple Pencil, etc. And the beauty of this is that, as I navigate around, it's real-time render. I'm not waiting for anything to render, and I can transfer myself into these other areas. I could even go out of the patio if I cared to, and just keep studying the space with full reign of moving around. Yet, as I mentioned, there's a pull down up here. So any of the camera views that I've created, as I've named them, this would be as you've named them, whatever camera views you created, a client could just select on one and actually go specifically to that camera view. And there is also the play button up here that if I hit the play button based on the camera views that I created and the order that I chose to tell the story, this is going through with hands-free and just navigating around to give my client a full 3D tour as I wanted them to see the property. And we could stop this at any time just by clicking on space up here. And do know, of course, that this does open in our virtual reality goggles with no problem. So that is your 3D tour information currently. I want to talk about Floorscanner for a second. Our iPhone, Apple products out there, hardware of 12, released 12, 13, 14 Pro versions of the iPhone and of the iPad have an additional piece of hardware in those cameras on the back of your phone or in the back of your iPad. It's a LiDAR scanning device that was added in by Apple, mainly so that programmers could take advantage of that and create apps to go ahead and take advantage of the scanning device that's associated with these particular hardwares. And Floor Planner did. So our programmers went ahead and created Floorscanner. This app is free. Again, it only works with these devices currently. We're still under development to try to work with other devices that are possibly non-LiDAR devices. But the Floorscanner app can go ahead and be placed onto your device. And by downloading it to your device, you can link it to your Floor Planner account when you log into Floorscanner. So if you log in with your Access ID, probably your email address, and also your password, you will be utilizing your Floor Planner account as you are conducting your scan with Floorscanner. I do want to mention in there is an expense associated for a full floor plan, which means multiple rooms that you're going to scan all at one time on one floor. There's credits that are required for that, which will of course be deducted from your account. But I do want to mention the single room for free. I think this is really cool. It takes full advantage of Apple's technology. And it's really fascinating. So you can create as many single rooms for free. So it's not just one room. You can do these one at a time, but you can do multiple single rooms. And how does this actually function? This is a quick video clip of actually my phone going into an existing bedroom. And this is a non-edited. I did not edit this video clip at all. I didn't speed it up. I didn't cut it. It's going to be exactly as it transpired when I actually used Floorscanner. So hit the play button and see if I can narrate this as fast because it's very quick. So this is what happens. We take our phone into a room. I log into my account through my app, say single room for free, hit the start scanning button, and I simply point my phone around the room and Apple takes over. And through Apple technology, we are actually reading the room. It's understanding where the ceiling is, where the floor is, where the windows are, where the doors are. You can see there's actually a 3D model being created right in front of you as all I'm doing is just pointing my phone around the room. Being a little crazy architect, I actually doubled up on myself and went around it again. Didn't need to. It's making assumptions on the furniture shapes and sizes. And then when you feel that you've captured the entire environment, you just hit the stop scanning button. You can twirl around on your phone and say, hey, this is the model I've captured. And if it looks great, you hit the looks great button. If it doesn't look good, you hit the rescan button. Mine looked great, so I hit looks great. And this is like the magic of this. It's still on my phone. It's actually opening up my floor planner account. And we're in floor planner, and the 3D model in floor planner as a project has been created, and it's inside your floor planner account waiting for you. I can still look at it on my phone. I can twirl around, see what I've captured, the bedroom, the room, the architecture. I can view it in 2D, 3D, wireframe, etc. It is a bedroom, certainly, but I might want to change the room style while I'm still on my phone, still with my client. I could go ahead and do the pull down menu, determine a different room type, take that bedroom and maybe change it into something otherwise like a home office, and then take from collections that I've already made as room styles or style boards and assign it to this room. It's now home office. Hit the magic layout button. And based on algorithms, that collection that I just selected has now replaced the bedroom furniture and made that space that we just scanned into a home office. Algorithms, not full artificial intelligence, not displacing an interior designer by any means, but based on mathematical approximations as to where things should be placed. You have full freedom to go ahead and move these items, to delete items, to add from other collections, and put your own special design spin on this interpretation. But it's a very fast, high-speed way to take a collection that you've already created yourself and reuse it into a different shaped room. I think more importantly than all of that is the fact that we did scan the room and captured the room. So I didn't have to go on site and take a tape measure, a laser measure, graph paper, record everything, take it back, try to translate that and go ahead and enter that manually into Floor Planner to build a 3D model. It was the ease of just pointing my camera around the room. So the model is created. I can turn off my phone anytime and go over to any other device, computer or iPad, and open up my floor planner account. And that project, as you see it, is waiting for me to be continued, to keep working on its design, change furniture selections, materials, finishes. I did go back and remeasure this room. Being an architect, I just want to see the level of accuracy that the scan had actually conducted for me. It was within 1/2 of an inch, which was acceptable to me. I think that was actually really, really good. But of course, in Floor Planner, you can move your walls, and if you need to accommodate for even 1/2 an inch, you could do so and make it exactly true. I think you're going to find this technology the wave of the future, high-speed ways to capture rooms quickly and also translate right into a 3D model inside Floor Planner, ready to go. Keep watching this. The programmers do keep, they're continuing to develop it, so it's getting better and better. I would mention for that one room for free, try to make sure that the ceiling that you're working with is a flat ceiling. It will not be capturing anything in a complicated ceiling like cathedral ceilings or different gables, etc. So it really works best currently with a flat ceiling. I do believe the paid for option does have a bit more freedom to work with different complexities. We'll talk about style boards. I just talked just briefly about room styles. Room styles inside Floor Planner has always been there to put a collection of furnishings, materials, and finishes together as one decor set for a room type, for a living room or for a dining room, etc. Style boards came along after that, and style boards we've had out for the past year. Something we're all pretty well familiar with is making a mood board presentation, a flat board presentation of furniture, materials for the flooring, paint for the walls, and putting together a little composite on a sheet that, we probably did these on PowerPoint presentations or other digital softwares. Back in the day, you used to just take magazines and cut the pictures out and paste them to a board. And it is a mood board presentation. Well, we can do this electronically inside Floor Planner. I think a little bit more fun than other softwares is that we have the 3D models of the furniture, of course. So if you all of a sudden say, in perspective on an angle, yes, that sofa looks good. But you also have the options to change that view to a front view, top view, side view. Um, or multiple views if you want to put different composite of different views together. You have a lot of freedom. And of course, since you're working with the 3D models anyway, you can make a really nice presentation board. And then, of course, the rugs, the details, the wallpaper, the flooring materials, the paint for the walls, accessories, plants, lighting fixtures, etc. Well, it makes a presentation board. You can add text to it, some symbols and colorizations. Yet, what's happened with style boards in the past couple months is it's gained some intelligence. So now you can add what's called a role to any one of the items that you put on your board. So I can actually select the sofa and tell the sofa that it is a sofa and that this object here is a coffee table and that this object is an end table and this is a lamp. And this is the floor, and this is the wall paint. By giving intelligence to the items individually, this board is not just a still presentation anymore. This board can be used over and over again in the future. So if you've made different style boards that have been working well for other clients, or from your own creative mind as to what you would like to see for a client, these boards can in the future then be literally dragged into an empty floor plan that you've created for another client. And it will populate that empty room with the entire collection based on algorithms and based on the assigned roles that you gave these particular items. Again, wave of the future, speeding up your presentations. Of course, from there, you can delete items, add from collections, and go ahead and move items around. So you're not locked into this presentation, but it is a really great way to populate a room very, very fast and then make your edits from there. Something extra, definitely want to show this to you today, is that you can add custom materials to wall surfaces. There's a great library of materials inside Floor Planner to choose from. You're going to drag and drop them, the paint colors, etc. But the fashion keeps changing very, very fast. And so wallpapers or murals or anything that you can gain a JPEG or PNG image of, you can upload your own custom images into your own library inside Floor Planner and then apply them to your wall surface. You can scale them. Um, to be real world scale. This also works really cool for clients' artwork. Maybe you went to your client's house and they wanted to do a specific decor around a specific piece of art they have. You can take a picture of it, crop it, take the measurements of it, add it to as I choose a file image here for your library and apply it to the wall, and don't repeat it on your wall like you would a wallpaper. And you can actually scale it and place it on your wall as a piece of art on your wall also. I think you'll find this extremely valuable for custom design work and really giving you full access to any JPEG, PNG image. It could be millwork, it could be uh, custom paneling, etc. Depends on what you're doing. There's many other reasons to do so, but we'll play with that today for sure. And don't forget about that short shortcut hotkeys page that I mentioned in the editor manual. Certainly, there's some really, really great tools in here that they're very simple, but something as simple as even just holding your space bar to pan around on your screen in the middle of a command, etc. And let's continue. Okay, advanced tools. Let's get started. Let's go live into the platform, which is obviously much more fun. You are looking at my login. I'm actually live in the cloud inside my enterprise account. Shouldn't look that different from anybody else's. The dashboard tab in the upper left-hand corner, if you hit dashboard, it will give you your profile tab over here on the left-hand side. I just want to note inside dashboard to your account settings. If you go to your account settings, these are mine. I just want to note one account setting specifically in here where it says export emails. Export emails. Yes, keep me updated about my exports. I like to keep this turned on. It's nothing but a toggle switch that you can turn off or turn on. I like to reference this because leaving it turned on, you have a benefit that when you create an export, a rendered image, you send your request out into the cloud to have a two-dimensional image created or a three-dimensional camera view rendered, and you wait for it. Although it's coming back extremely fast in seconds and minutes. Sometimes you don't have time to wait. So sitting at your computer waiting to see it, if this is turned on, you don't have to wait. You're not captive to your computer because by having this turned on, yes, your export will be created and it will be stored inside your exports tab at your home page, inside your floor planner account, ready for you to view it later. But in addition, when this is turned on, an actual copy of it will also be sent to your email address. My emails go to my phone, and that way I could just run to meet with a client on a showroom floor or go out into the field to have a site visit. And that rendering, when it's completed, will actually be emailed to me, my plans or my three-dimensional images. So I could forward them from my phone or go ahead and actually showcase them and share them with my client without having to be waiting for them at my computer, although it's a short wait, but sometimes, you just have to go. So no, that's a really cool feature. Some people get annoyed with too many emails of verifications, so you do have the option to turn that off if you care to, but I always keep mine turned on. So if I go to projects, these are my projects, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a project I've already created as an HD level project. So obviously we're SD or higher for those multiple floors and all the features that we were talking about earlier, because I'm not going to be demonstrating on an SD light project. I'm actually on an SD or higher, but HD for its better resolution. I created a project previously, and we're going to reverse engineer this project. We're going to actually take it down to nothing purposely, because I want to show you some tools along the way as I'm working in here. So let's go ahead and open up this project. And by selecting it, of course, you have all these additional features over here on the left-hand side. Just by clicking on it once, you have all these other tabs for a multitude of reasons, including editing and upgrading if you ever needed to change the name of your project or you misspelled your client's name, or upgrading it from an HD level to something higher, or doing an add-on to it for those 3D tours, etc. This is where you would do this. Or you hit the open button to actually open the project, or just double click on the icon up here to open the project. You can see I have one floor in this design in this project, and I have two designs in this project. So let's take a peek. Open it up and go down to the cloud. And here comes my existing project that we've already built. Now, again, my goal right now is to take this backward. I had traced a background out here, traced walls inside here, added some doors, added some furniture inside here, all is looking very, very good. But again, we're going to take this backwards. So I'm going to hit my B key on my keyboard. B is your background shortcut key to turn this background off that we were tracing, which we'll do another one in just a little bit, just so I can show you, make sure you're comfortable with tracing backgrounds. So the project that we have here, this is one room. And this is another room, which is the hallway down here. These are undefined room types right now. And the separation in there is something we're going to be using a lot here is a zero thickness wall. So there's a wall right in there that if I select that wall, you can see over here on the settings of the wall on the left-hand side that the thickness of that wall is 0, which makes it invisible. And that's how I'm separating this volume from this volume. So I want to call this a specific room type up here by selecting the area. Left-hand sidebar says that the room type is unnamed, and I want to make that a living room. So if I select that tab, I can go ahead and make it a living room or a kitchen or a nursery. This is a color blocking system, which is awesome. Plus the rooms have a sense of what they are. There's a little artificial intelligence with that. So we'll make you a living room, and we can move our title away. And I can select this other area down here and room type unnamed, and I could call it a hallway. I believe we got one out there. Hallway. There we go. And again, I can move the title also. So 2 different zones. So if you ever wondered how to separate out an open floor plan between areas, it's just making use of this zero thickness wall, which we are going to be using for a multitude of reasons today. But for right now, you can see that we can separate out these areas. Areas can also be calculated by square footage. So if I select this area up here, I could go over to the settings of this living room area over here, go to its settings. Inside the settings, I can say show surface area with a tab, and that'll give us the square footage. Now, I could do that for the same area down here, but there's also a feature for the entire project here that I could show the running feet, the lengths of the walls, which is great for cost estimating or communication to your client, which is in a settings tab in the upper right-hand corner, 2D settings tab. Settings tab, if we go ahead and state in the dimensions tab, there's a feature and that says show interior dimensions. If I turn that on, this is the running foot distances all around the perimeter. I'm gonna turn that off right now. I don't need that at the moment. Now select this room down here again and do the same thing to just go ahead and turn off the settings to not show surface square footage. And there we go. So let's take this backwards now, and we're going to take this. I want to empty this entire project out. So to do so along the way, I want to show you a really cool command. It's your shift key and your left mouse click. I'm using a Windows PC right now, so I'm going to use my left click on my mouse and hold my shift key at the same time, and I can make a selection window. You see that I'm actually grabbing these pieces of furniture in that selection window, and it will group the items together temporarily. I can left click and move that grouping somewhere else if I care to. Notice that it's snapping to the walls. You can stop snap at any time by holding your S key on your keyboard, and it will turn off snap. You're moving one item at a time, or as a grouping, you can turn off snap just by holding your S key. Let go and the snap comes back on. These groupings, number one, they can be moved. Number two, you can also, while they're still selected, change the rotation to a different degree. I'll change it to 45 degrees. So you can change the degree if you care to. You can also duplicate this grouping in the same design that you're working on, or the selection itself and delete it. So those are your controls as using this selection window. Do my undo button, put it back the way it was. If I hold my shift key and my left mouse click and I select a window over the entire project, you would think it's going to pick the walls and the structure also, but it doesn't. It will always select on the first pass just the furniture and the fixtures in the room, furniture and fixtures, which would be your baseboards, light fixtures, appliances, etc. So with all those items selected, again, I can do the same things. I can rotate them, I can copy them, I can move them, etc. If I wanted to select the structure for some reason to make some modification to it or to delete it or to copy it somewhere else, I would have to get the furniture and the fixtures out of the way. So I could move them out of the way now, or I could delete them, but you can also turn them off. There's a layering command for that in the upper right-hand corner under 2D settings, settings tab. And you can go down to the furniture tab, which are your objects. And there's a show furniture toggle switch and a show fixtures toggle switch. Turn them both off and off. With those both turned off, you can use your shift command and use your left mouse click and select over the entire structure. And this time it's selected the walls, doors, and windows, ceiling, and floor. This comes in really handy when you are drafting out an apartment, a condo, even a house, and you need the neighbor's house. You need the mirror image of it next door, but you didn't want to redraft it. You have the ability to go ahead and flip what you've selected here or across the horizontal axis, up and down, or the vertical axis, left and right. So you can make a mirror image of this project if you care to. You can also rotate it 90 degrees in both directions and or copy it for another purpose in the same design of the same project if you needed another one of them here for some reason. And you can also hit the delete key up here to delete the selection that you have here. Now these ideas of copying using the tab right here, or the furniture and copying a grouping of furniture or even single items, you're duplicating them in the same design that you're working on this page right here. There are going to be times when you want to take structures or even furniture groupings from one design or one floor of one design to another design in the same project. Maybe you could have up to 70 different designs running in here, or a different floor. You have up to 7 different stories, 7 different floors that you want to take it from one floor to another floor, or even taking it to another project, closing out this project completely and taking it to a brand new project that you're just starting or an existing project that you already have. So borrowing from one to another project. To do so, it's the same selection mode. And like if I was going to take the structure, if I held my shift key and made my selection window and I grabbed my structure, but this time you are not going to use this copy button. Do not use this copy button. You're just going to use your keystrokes on your keyboard. On your keyboard, hit the Control C key, which is your copy command, Control C, and your computer will retain one copy at a time. It'll remember what we just selected and then go somewhere else. Again, we could go to a different design in the same project. I could go to a different floor in the same project. I could close this project completely, open another brand new project or an existing project. And then whenever you're at your proper destination, hit your Control V key. Control V as in Victor. And that's your paste command, typical computer language. Control V will paste. So you can copy paste between designs, floors, even projects. And same idea if you had the furniture selected. Really, really cool tool. But our goal right now is to take this down to nothing. So we're going to go ahead and put that furniture back in there with the layers, furniture, and fixtures. And I'm going to hold my shift command and select furniture, delete it. Shift command, select the structure, and delete it. Basically empty. Hit my bullseye over here to center my project on my screen. And at that point, I know that I have a background that I'm tracing up here. You can see it right here. We're going to delete even that. Again, I'm just trying to erase everything, reverse engineering this. We'll hit the delete key. And now it says upload excuse me, not second, 2D floor plan. So there is no background. So we're going to start from scratch here if there's nothing there. Now, how many designs do I have in this project? If you hit the project tab up here, this tells you about the designs. I can see there's 2 designs in this project, and I want to get this down to just one. There's Bob option 2, and there's my first design. So Bob option 2 is selected. And when it is, I can hit the delete key. There's Bob option 2, delete, and say, yes, I want to delete it. Cool. Go to the Designs tab. There's my first design. Here it is. Zoom extents. There's nothing there. I'd say we're doing pretty well. We now have an empty plan, which was the whole intention of getting us to this point. Now let's go ahead and build something. So if we go to the hammer for construction over here and say draw a room, which is our simplest way to go from one corner to another corner, 4 walls, ceiling and floor all at one time. It wants to know how thick your walls are, of course. I'm going for 5-inch thick walls here in the US, 3.5-inch stud walls, metal or wood, and then 5/8 inch gypsum board on either side, making about a 5-inch thick wall. 10-foot high ceilings. Always remember that your ceiling heights are very important. They're creating your flat ceiling automatically. And if you vary your ceiling heights for any reason, you're going to have some maybe undesirable results because your ceiling is going to try to attach to the tops of your walls, which we'll see in just a moment. But we're going to talk about a flat ceiling for right now. 5 inches, 10 feet high, raised from floor. It sits on the ground for sure. I can left click and start dragging out a room area, one point to another point. Notice in the lower left-hand corner, there's numbers that are changing. In blue, the first number is your X direction, which is your horizontal direction, typical in architecture. First number is X, comma, space, Y direction, which is the depth going up and down. Numbers are changing. If I want to make a 20-foot by 20-foot room 10 feet high, I can use my keyboard. I'm doing two-handed here. My right hand is still holding my mouse, dragging out this box, but I can type in with my other free hand 20 feet, comma, space 20 feet, and hit enter. And I made a 20-foot by 20-foot room and a 10-foot high ceiling, built my 3D model, all finished pretty simply. I'm gonna hit my undo button. Because typically when I show this, I say, well, just draw a room 5 inches thick, 10 feet high, and just drag out a room of any shape. And then knowing that your interior dimensions can be edited, which will physically move your wall distances. So I can select my interior dimension over here and change this out to say it's 20 feet and choose which wall I want to move. I can take the wall at the top and push it upward with the tab on the left, or the wall at the bottom, push it downward with the tab on the right, or split the difference with the tab in the middle. I'll take the tab on the left and push the wall upward. And same thing with the width here. It needs to be shorter than 24. I'll change it to 20 feet. And I'll take the wall on the left and kick it in with the tab on the left. So it gives you a lot of control. Now, sometimes you're going to have multiple rooms drafted of an entire floor, and you may not have all the automated dimensions that you need to make these adjustments. So I'm going to show you another way. So let's say we put a closet in here. So I'm going to say draw a wall. I'll just click over here and start drawing one wall, another wall, another wall, and build a closet. Okay. Now I want this closet to be 5 feet wide and 2 feet deep. So I can select the dimension up here and change this to 5 feet and move the walls accordingly. But how do I make it 2 feet deep if I can't select the depth of this area? You can push and pull walls. So if I select with my little finger in here, any point on that wall and left click and push upward, I get a blue line with 2 arrows on either end, and the numbers are all changing. I pull it downward also, and it does the same thing in reverse. Now, pushing it upward and that blue line with the 2 arrows, notice the number changing in the lower left-hand corner, the blue number in that box that we were looking at earlier. If you're comfortable doing this two-handed, still I'm holding my right-hand mouse, pushing that wall upward. I can type in 2 feet on my keyboard and hit enter. And I push that up 2 feet. Now I can also push a wall in, do the same thing and type in 5 feet, or I can select the dimension up here and just change this out to be 5 feet. And say which wall I want to move, wall left inward. There you go. So pushing and pulling walls, another way to give yourself accurate, a control tab to be able to be more accurate with your dimensions. You have other features, things that you can do to a wall. I can select the wall down here, and you can split a wall. You can add from this point another wall, although I just hit the add wall and just shows where I wanted to start from. And you also have a curve wall feature down here. So if you hit curve, you can actually bow out and pulling from the center, bow it out and curve that wall. The floor and ceiling are healing themselves with no problem. There's no way to enter the exact radius of this wall in Floor Planner. There's also no way to enter the exact angle of a wall. You need a guide of some sort. You have the graph paper in the background out here that will help you to some degree visually. I like to have a guide. So you can go into the objects tab over here and go into architecture, and there's circles and squares and triangles that you can resize and use them as guides to trace your walls. But I like to trace an actual background. So if I have a floor plan from my architect, my builder, my developer, I went online, took it from a real estate agent's website, or I took it from an architect's plan that they were building for a community down the street, wherever you can get a floor plan, JPEG, PNG, or PDF version of it, you can insert it in Floor Planner, scale it to real world scale, and trace it, which is obviously great for your straight walls. But if you have anything that's curved, that'll be your guide. And also it comes in really handy for an angled wall because you can just trace it and have no problem with it. To do so, we're gonna go ahead and trace the background. I'll hold my shift key and go ahead and select this volume again and delete it. So let's put a background to trace inside this project. If I hit the upload 2D plan, remember build, upload, and I just need to find one. Here's the same one that I'd like to use. Real estate agent posted this on their website, and I took it, put it on my computer, and it's a JPEG. I'm gonna say open it. And this twirling around circle up here is looking for it, and there it is, depositing itself inside my floor planner model. Now, with that being placed there, we need to do one more thing. We need to scale this image to real world scale. It's nothing but a giant sheet of paper. It doesn't have artificial intelligence to understand what is the scale. To scale it, all I need to know is from one point to a second point, unknown dimension. So if there's dimension lines on this background plan, I could go ahead and go from one point to another of the dimension line, and it would tell me what it is. Or I could take a scaling block, an architectural scaling block, if I had one from one point to another, and tell it its known distance. I do not have a dimension line, and I do not have a scaling block in here. So I could take the information here instead, 11 feet from drywall surface to drywall surface, point to point. So to do so, I just need to mark those 2 points. So if I go to the Edit tab in the upper left-hand corner, Edit, and say scale the background, scale this background, draw on the canvas. What that means is it wants to know the 2 points. So I'm going to left-click with my cursor right on the drywall edge is 1 point, go across the way somewhat parallel to the other edge, left click, second point, 1 point, 2 points, and what distance is it supposed to be? Type it in as 11 feet and hit enter. And there we go. This has made this floor plan real world scale, 1-to-1, 1 foot equals 1 foot. I like to do it a second time. So if I hit scale background one more time, you'll notice that as the image gets larger, the crosshairs get smaller and tighter and more accurate. And oops, so if I put that in the wrong place by accident, you can drag it into position right onto the drywall edge and type it in as 11 feet one more time. And it tweaked it just a little bit to make it a little bit more accurate. I'm going to hit my back button up here to get out of this command right now and go ahead and take my tape measure command, lower left-hand corner, and activate tape measure. And I can left click and just do a quick measure proof using this temporary measuring tool as a tape measure, and just proof to make sure your rooms truly are coming out to the proper dimensions, just to make sure you have confidence in this background that you're working with. I do, and it's done. So at this point, like these angles down here, if there was a curve, we could certainly, get the radius even better. But this would make it really simple to go ahead with the commands that we did earlier, draw a room. But now I'm actually 5 inches thick again, tracing from the middle of the wall. Remember, we're drafting from the middle of the wall, not the edges of the wall. And that little blue circle that's trailing behind there has a diameter to it as to the thickness that I told the wall to be, which is 5 inches. So I want to go stay in the middle and middle here and find the corner in the middle of both and left click. Oops, excuse me. Oh, get rid of that. Shift command. There we go. And delete. So let's try it again. Draw room. Get in the center of both of those walls, left click and drag out the entire room and line up the edges of the walls, even though I'm drafting from the middle, get it as close to as you can and let go. And I can see that I missed it by 1 inch and a quarter. So I can make this accurate. We did this earlier. Just go ahead and make it exactly 11 feet and determine which wall I want to move to make that exactly accurate. I push the wall at the bottom upward with this tab. And we did so. Now, the rest of this model, we can certainly go over here and draw wall by wall by wall by wall and just left click and snap. Left click again. Left click again at the intersection and then trace that angle to that point. There's a slight snap inside Floor Planner that's giving us these nice orthogonals. So try to keep it nice and clean from one point to a second point. And click. And follow the angle again to the intersection and rejoin. There we go. And now we close the circuit, which gave us that beige color inside there, meaning that I have a closed circuit of walls, which means with the beige area, it means I have a floor and I have a ceiling, everything's successful. Well, every time we touch the wall, every joint inside here now breaks the wall, so I can select this piece and get rid of it. I don't need that. And on this wall, I can take the end point and stretch it backward. But again, the high value of being able to trace a background as a guide for angles or for curves will come in extremely handy. And from here, we can certainly drag and drop our sliding glass doors down here and continue working inside this plan. And knowing that in 3D, what do we have? Our full 3D model, 10 feet high. And if we go inside with the walking man up there, which is our first person view inside, our ceiling and our floors were created for us. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase this because I really want to start talking about custom ceilings before we get into multiple floors and show you how to make more elaborate architectures than just a flat ceiling. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this for us. And I'll turn off that background. We don't really need it anymore. We'll just go ahead and delete it. Okay, so I'm gonna build that 20 foot by 20 foot room again. So say draw room, drag it out, type it in as 20 feet, comma space 20 feet, enter. Okay, 20 foot by 20 foot flat ceiling, 10 foot high ceiling. I want to make this a cathedral ceiling. I want to make a ridge line across here at a higher point. So I'm going to want to change the slant on the tops of the walls as they come to this higher point here and here. To do so, I want to split the wall into two different pieces. You can put your finger anywhere over here or your cursor, left click, and one of the options in there was not just a curve or add a wall, but you can split the wall. Split one piece of wall, the second piece of wall, grab the point in the center there, and you can actually drag that slowly, and it will snap to the center. 10 feet, 10 feet, stop, 10 feet, 10 feet, two sections of wall, 10 feet high. I go across the way, do the same thing over here, select and split, grab the split mark and drag it down and let it snap to the center, 10 feet, 10 feet, let go. Okay, everything's still 10 feet high. So if I select this point over here, wall 1 at that point and wall 2 at that point, here's the information on the left-hand side. I could change the first number and change it to 14 feet. 14 feet and hit enter. It's changed all of them at this point. This is raised this point of wall 1 and wall 2, 14 feet high. Go across the way, I can do the same thing. Now you may have multiple walls coming together at one intersection, so you might have to do it backwards sometimes. So you can actually say wall 2 at that point is 14 feet, and wall 1 at that point is also 14 feet, and hit enter, and then it changes all the numbers also. What we've done now in 3D, zoom extents, is we've changed the wall structure, which is really, really great. Well, you know the ceilings will follow the walls, right? Well, sort of. The ceiling is trying to get from this point to that point and that point to that point, and it's not exactly the way we want to build our ceiling. So if you've ever seen these white triangles before, you now know why they are occurring. We can force it to have a ridge line across the center just by drawing a wall from this point to this point. And because we started at a 14-foot high point, it made our 10-foot high wall 14 feet because it took the ownership of the height at that point. With this being constructed, we fixed our ceiling, but I did not want a wall in the middle of my room. So I can select the wall, as we talked about earlier, go to its settings and give it a 0 thickness. That's invisible. And go to 3D and zoom extents, see what we built. And it's perfect, looking great. And if I go inside the room with my interior first person, looking up, looking down, it all looks great, except I'm going to have to enter wall material twice because it is splitting my wall. It's also splitting my floor material twice. But if you're doing square footage calculations like we showed at the beginning, there's no way to join them. So this may not be your best choice, or you may be having more complicated ceiling details, other gables coming into this, not just one ridge line. So I want to show you how to do this manually. So let's go back to 2D. I'm going to select the wall and I'm going to delete that one that's holding up my ceiling, which now has messed up my ceiling completely. So it's bad again. So now I could select the room, go to its settings over here on the left-hand side, settings of this area we've created, and there's a button up here for generate ceiling. I'm going to turn it off. That's the automated ceiling. Now there is no ceiling and it's looking up at blue sky. No, there's nothing there. But we're going to make a manual ceiling out of surfaces. So I'm going to say draw a surface and we're going to trace this. If you've never built a surface, it's a little different than the walls. So there's a snap feature. So there's left click, there's my first point, tracing a surface. You can see the line I'm creating. Select that next point. Now, when you go to the third point, you actually start seeing the surface that you're creating. And we'll go across the way. And that's my last point. Now I click there, but it's still in the middle of a command. So if I hit my escape key, it will break the command. Now, if I left click on the surface I just created, it has 4 corners that I can drag out and reshape it. It's sitting on the ground. It's 0 thickness, basically. So go to its settings on the left-hand side. I'm going to make this raise above my head because I'm going to make it my ceiling. So if I say raise from floor, I'm going to take advantage of the 10 feet in the back first. So I'll say raise from floor 10 feet. And then I want to tilt it. So if I select this one corner out here and say, I want this corner to be 14 feet, enter, and select this corner out here and make it also 14 feet. Oops, not 1,000, just 14 feet, enter. And if I go back to 3D, see what we created, zoom extents, there's our ceiling, there's a roof, perfectly constructed, and we had full control to do it this time. This was not automated. And we can duplicate and rotate, or we could just trace out another one to finish out the other half. Cool thing about surfaces is that surfaces accept materials. So if this is to be a roof, I could go to my material library and I could go into a category for my outdoor materials. Roofing materials, maybe find something like a Spanish tile roof and drag and drop. And there you go, Spanish tile roof. Go out to 3D. And this is really nice. You know that it's going to render even better, but it's a little thin. Surfaces, not only will they accept materials, now have a new feature that you can select them and you can go to the settings of the surface and you can give it thickness and extrusion. So if I say I want to make it 5 inches thick, hit enter. And as a roofing material for Spanish tile materials, yeah, it is now much more realistic than it was previously because we gave it some thickness. Of course, again, preview image, you know it's going to render even nicer. Surfaces are not just for roofs. You can use them for anything that you can trace out and plan. You can elevate from the ground, you can give them thickness, you can tilt them, you can add materials, you can curve them. So if we were like building a patio out here, there's no reason why we couldn't go over here and say draw a surface and outside just trace point to point. Remember, it always starts on the ground by nature, just sitting on the ground, which is where we're going to put our patio anyway. I can select that volume and I have these corners that I can move. I can also use these white dots in here to curve in between. If this was to be my patio, I could also say I want to wrap it around the side. I can move any of these other dots, or I could also add another grip just by left clicking on the outside line. There's another grip. And I could stretch that grip out accordingly. And I could take this point and move it over here. And I could make another grip right here, grab it down, snap there. This point could drag all the way down here. It's kind of like playing three-dimensional chess. Just click another point here and connect it down here. So you can keep reshaping a space. We could add a brick pattern to this with more materials, and I'll probably make it like an inch thick before adding grass outside. Otherwise, surfaces, highly, highly, highly important to you for all the values that you can do. I do want to go ahead and put this room back together. So I'm going to take this point here and see if we can modify that. Get you back down to 10 feet at all, maybe one at a time. Yep, one at a time takes down 10 feet again, as the original ceiling height that it was, 10 feet, 10 feet. And you can grab that point that's splitting and it can be reconnected at the other end. And there's my 20-foot wall again. Select this point over here. Do the same thing up there, make that 10 feet down again. Turn 10 feet on the second. Enter. And again, I could just drag that all the way down. Oops. There we go, and 20-foot wall. I'm going to put my ceiling back on by selecting that room, go to its settings, and generate ceilings back on that. Okay, we're good. Make sure it's still there. Looks good. Let's go inside our room. Flat ceiling. Okay, this is a 10-foot high ceiling. Let's talk about making a tray ceiling inside here. There's no reason why you couldn't draw a surface inside here and just start tracing at the same volume that we talked about earlier, like so. Now I can select this and maybe I'm going to put a tray in the center. I can make another point. Here is a grip. Another point. Here is a grip. Drag this one inward and start making a tray ceiling, defining where your tray is going to be. And one more point right here. So let's say that's your tray shape with a hole in the center. I can select that volume, go to its settings, raise from floor, raise it up 8 feet. That's a 10-foot high ceiling, just 8 feet. And then I'm going to give the thickness to that tray as 2 feet to finish out the rest of the space. Remember, surfaces will accept paint and or materials or wallpapers. So will your room. So if your room has a ceiling, this is at the 10-foot level. If you go to the settings of the room, you'll notice it's pure white ceiling material up there right now. You can actually choose a different color or materials. You could actually start going into your wallpapers or woods and such. So for the inside of the tray, you can make a material up here and then make your tray of the surface also a different material. If we look inside, you can see what we just built as truly a tray ceiling. And of course, with those curved white dots in the corners, if you had to make an oculus center, you could do so. So you have a lot of freedom with surfaces. I'm going to take this and delete it for right now. Room areas, as I mentioned, open floor plans between two areas certainly can be divided by using a single wall that I showed at the very beginning. I could just draft out a wall between these two areas. Maybe it's a living room. Oops, crooked, sorry. Living room and a dining room between two areas here. There we go, straight. Yep. This room down here, I can select the area, go to its settings, unnamed, living room. I go up here and make this my dining room. Okay, living room, dining room, take that wall in the center, make it 0 thickness and settings, make it invisible. I could do the square footage. I can also do materials separated. So we can go to materials and look for a wood flooring. I have a favorite wood out there. Let's go ahead and look for Nordic. Nice ash colored. Grab this material, drag and drop it. And also maybe a carpet in my dining room. Not the best choice in the world, but we're gonna do carpet, not Nordic carpet. There we go. And we'll find a nice carpet pattern, drag and drop. Okay, so we have two different materials down there. The materials can be adjusted. You can't change the color, but you can change the orientation and the scaling. So by selecting this room, you see the material on the left-hand side, go to the material, and inside the material, I go to material settings. Material settings, I can change the rotation of the planks, do it 90 degrees. I could also start changing the horizontal scale, which is making the lengths of the planks change, or even change the vertical, which is making the thickness of the planks change. And once you've resized it, you can determine which plank you want to start on which wall by just moving the offset. Once it's resized, just determine which plank you want to start on which edge of which wall. This comes in handy for certainly tile patterns, restaurant, bathrooms, trying to center tile patterns. And we could do the same thing with the carpet if we cared to. So we have two different materials out there, and go to 3D, go inside, and open floor plan between two areas. Of course, this visible wall and there is splitting our walls into different sections for multiple materials, etc. If I want to go ahead and paint a wall over here, we go to the paint tab over here on the left-hand side. There's different paint companies out there, Dulux, Pure and Original, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, drag and drop a paint to the wall. You can custom mix your paints. So if you Google search a different paint company, and even the name of the paint from the fan deck, and then ask Google for the hex number, HEX, hex number, as the color code, like I have one up here right now, which is Benjamin Moore Raspberry Truffle. And Raspberry Truffle has a code number up there for the color mix, which is the hex number of 923538. As you can see. So if I go in here and go into the hex number up here and enter 923538, there's Raspberry Truffle right there. You can take that color, left click, drag, hover over the wall, outside or inside, fill the entire wall with that color right there, that white circle color, and let go. You painted one wall. If I held my shift key while I'm painting one wall, it would paint the entire room. Hold shift, paints the whole room. Don't hold shift, paints just one wall. This color can also be favorited. I may have already favorited, but it's the eye dimension, eye tag in the upper right-hand corner. This is where you would be able to favorite it. I've already got it favorited. So if I wanted a different color for a favorite, maybe something like Crystal Surprise. If I hit the eye up there and say I want to add it to my favorites, it's now been added to my favorites. And if I ever want to use my favorites list, it's actually this little heart up here. These are all my favorite paints that I've already put out there. There's Raspberry Truffle again. So even custom mixed paints can be favorited. Okay, let's put some trim out there. So let's add some baseboards out there through the Objects tab. And baseboards for the US are called skirting boards in Europe. So if I look for skirting boards or just looking for skirting, there they are, skirting boards. Drag and drop, it snaps to the wall. This little guy right there. It'll go down to the ground at 0. So if I go to the settings, it's sitting on the ground, yay. I'm gonna make it 8 inches in height, so it's a little bit more obvious. And with those settings changed, I could take the free scale button over here and just stretch that baseboard all the way down. right on the wall. And again, we could copy this and rotate it and continue doing our pasteboards around the floor. There's also something out there called Picture Rail. And it's a nice architectural trims. Grab one, oops, excuse me, grab one and drag and drop it, snaps to the wall. I can select that picture rail that's assigned to the wall and I go to its settings and I could change its dimensions, etc. With those items on my wall, of course, I could do the same thing with crown molding, which is called coving, C-O-V-I-N-G, and do the same thing at the top. But with that, what I've done so far, go inside with our first person and use my arrow keys to move back, arrow keys to the right. And the cool thing in 3D is that, you can select these volumes and you can move them while you're in 3D and place them visually. You can also select them, and on the left-hand sidebar over here, you can just duplicate them and use your arrow down here to move that same item orthogonally. So this is a lot of visual work you can do while you're in 3D and making these determinations. Let's go back to 2D for a second. Since we're talking about wall materials, and we talked about the custom wall materials being added, if I go ahead and select this wall surface over here to add a custom material, the wall has two sides to it, an inside and an outside. There's a side 1 and a side 2. Side 2 is outside, side 1 is inside. And if I want to go to the front view of this wall to put a custom material on, go to front view. And in front view, we're going to go ahead and go to uploads. You could also do colors and paints or materials, but uploads is your custom library. This will be your custom library. This is mine. If you choose file, it'll be added to your library. Don't be afraid to put too many in here. You have trash cans. You can always get rid of them, although I left a lot of mine out there. So once you've chosen a file and it goes into your library, you will then apply it to the wall. And you could do this with anything. You see, I have many different reasons, artwork, etc., murals. But let's talk about wallpaper. If you're doing a wallpaper sample, try to get a wallpaper sample that certainly has the entire pattern repeat shown on the digital sample, and also a seamless sample is even better, meaning that the left edge of the sample matches the right edge and the bottom edge matches the top. So when it repeats itself, it's a continuous pattern. This happens to be from Seabrook Wall Coverings. I went to their website, found a pattern. It's a seamless sample, and Seabrook was kind enough to tell me the actual dimensions of the sample as to what it would relate to in real world, because Floor Planner can accept that information. So try to get your seamless sample or create your own seamless sample. You'll figure how to trim it left, right, top, and bottom. But this one's ready. So choose a file, add it to your library. To add it to the wall, you just select it. Shows on the wall, 10-foot high ceiling. That is not what I wanted it to do. It filled the entire space. So take the pull down menu over here and go down to free. Free gives you these buttons on the corner so you can go ahead and actually stretch it. So if you have the physical sample in your hand, you can kind of get a sense of its scale, knowing where 5 feet is and where 10 feet is. Although this sample, and Seabrook did tell me it's 2 feet wide, so I can go ahead and change that out to be 2 feet wide. And its height is 2 feet also. So it's scaled properly. It's a seamless sample, so it's going to repeat really nice. So if I were to repeat it horizontally, it's like a chair rail, or vertically like a column, or both directions, we'll wallpaper the entire wall. So go down to tileize horizontally, vertically, or both directions. But we pay wallpaper the entire wall. When this image looks correct and you're happy with it, you're done. Sorry to say there's no done button, accept button, love it button. There's no button. When this image looks correct, a little counterintuitive, you're actually going to close the window to accept it. So when it looks good, just close the window. You'll notice that the wall is still selected. There's the preview image of the material on the wall, and we are done. So we go to 3D, go inside our room. Remember, the wall is split. That's why we didn't do the wallpaper everywhere. Sure enough, we got a great wallpaper up there. Preview image, you know it's going to render even more beautiful. We could have done this with a single piece of artwork and not repeated it and just dragged that artwork into a specific position. Done this with murals and other reasons and materials and finishes. Use your imagination. This is extremely powerful. If you want to, we're getting ready to build a multi-story project. So we're going to go ahead and place some doors in here. Let's go to our hammer for construction. Go down to placing doors. Inside placing doors, I like to view my doors in 3D. I can see where the glazing is. I might take just these French doors and drag them down here. I can left click on those doors that we selected. And don't forget that you can change the color of the frame, color of the door, and color of the threshold on the bottom. Not going to bother doing that right now, but I want to say, sometimes you need an open floor plan between two rooms and you need an entryway, a hole in your wall. It's under doors, placing doors. There's this one feature right down here. It's called entryway. There's one with an arch, there's one squared. I can drag that over here and it's actually going to cut a hole in my wall with no door. And I can change the size or change the height on there accordingly. And always remember that this as an opening between two rooms can also change the threshold material. So it's not just paint. You can go to materials and find the same wood and go ahead and actually apply the same wood as your threshold so the top does not look white anymore as it has in the past. And we just say, make the Nordic ash. And we've actually applied that material to the top of that threshold so it doesn't look white anymore. Now, let's go ahead and put a piece of furniture in here because I want to show you a little tilt feature real fast. So let's look for a sofa. And we'll just drag a plain sofa inside this room. And we're going to put a pillow on top of it. So let's put a pillow. And we'll just grab a green pillow, drag it on top. Okay, now we know we can put pillows on tops of sofas and we can rotate them like so. And we can duplicate them, but you can also tilt it. You can rotate it, you can overlap them, place them, but to make them even more casual, go into 3D, go inside your room. Let's get ourselves in position in front of our sofa, use our arrow keys, our mouse. But I can select this pillow, and over here in its settings, on the left-hand side in 3D, there's a tilt feature that I can start changing the tilt and change the tilt, not the rotation. I mean, I can certainly move the rotation on this item also, but I'm just going and changing the tilt and how it leans. This comes in handy, not just for pillows, but if you're going to lean a mirror up against the wall or beams in your ceiling, things that you needed to tilt, or accessories that you have on your shelf units that need to look a little bit more casual, a little bit more impromptu. You can give them just a little tilt. We'll talk about also beams for a second. So if we added a beam to our ceiling, and it's snapping to our ceiling level right now, it's finding that 10-foot high ceiling all by itself. We start doing beams and we started doing, let's say, light fixtures, chandeliers, and all of a sudden, all I want to do is print out the furniture floor plan, and all this additional 3D above my head is getting in the way for my 2D view. You can actually cut below items above your head to make your two-dimensional plan, like a cut section at a lower height. So if I go to 2D settings, it's actually in here for the general settings where it says hide all above a certain height. So if we turn that on, this is at 4 feet right now, or 5 feet, or 6 feet. It's below the beams. So anything above your head, we can now send this out as a PDF or a floor plan document as a JPEG. And we don't have to worry about the items that are above my head. They will not show in the document I'm going to be creating. So hide all above comes in very handy. I'm going to delete these for right now. And let's talk about building a multi-story project. Now, this is a point up here, this little intersection up here. This is called an origin point. There's only one per floor. And this point of reference is the exact same point of reference above and below itself on all floors. So if you're trying to line things up, trying to get a corner of a room to be in that specific point above and below itself, this will be your reference point. I have another way that I prefer to do this is to go ahead and build my first floor first, or my ground floor, multiple rooms, etc., because the load-bearing walls and the load-bearing structures will transfer to my second floor anyway. So build your first floor first, then duplicate it to be your second floor. That way they're directly above and below each other just by duplicating it. Then you don't have to worry about trying to move anything. So at least get those structural walls, load-bearing columns above and below each other. And then if you had to change the partitions on the second floor, you could always just delete the other peripheral walls and redraft the correct walls as partitions, but leave your load-bearing and structural elements in place. Now, to do so, I want to go ahead and build my first floor first, as I did, and I want to go ahead and put a staircase in here because I'm going to put it on the first floor, even though I'm only going to need one staircase. I want to duplicate it to the second floor so I can cut a hole in the floor, but I need to know where the stair is. There's a 10-foot high staircase. We'll drag and drop it, snap it to the wall over here, have a landing on the bottom and a landing for my second floor here and there. And at that point, let's go ahead and talk about building a second floor. So, by the way, if I click on the objects, it'll disappear. Click objects again, it comes back. Pull down menu over here. I'm on the first floor. And I'm going to say first floor, not add a floor. First floor has a settings tab, or has a gear settings for that first floor. Inside the settings of the first floor, there's an option to duplicate it. So if I hit duplicate the first floor, it creates something that says first floor copy. Looks exactly the same, of course, as a copy, but I'm going to rename it because I'm going to get confused by that later. So I'm going to rename it as second floor. Hit enter to accept it. So it's now named second floor. I can hop between second floor and first floor. There's the first floor and there's the second floor. Well, I don't need the staircase on the second floor, but I just need it momentarily. So I'm going to just trace out using, no big surprise, surfaces. I'm going to trace out where the hole in the floor is going to be. Left click, a second point, go down the staircase, click over, done. Escape to end. Now I don't need the staircase on the second floor, so I'm going to delete it. And this will be my opening looking down to the floor below and letting the staircase come through from the first floor. Go to the settings tab of the surface. Remember, it's just sitting on the ground of the second floor. And there's a command in there to be cut out. If you select the cutout command, sure enough, it puts a hole in your floor. So if I go to 3D, and twirl around. There's a hole in the wall and a hole in the floor, but where's my first floor? I'm on the second floor. Where is my first floor? It's not there. There's a settings tab for that. Upper right-hand corner, it's 3D settings tab. And then there's a command for showing the floors below. And that would be show floors below, toggle switch. And you'll notice that they are exactly aligned above and below each other perfectly because we duplicated it. And you'll notice also that there's a hole in the floor and a hole in the walls. And there it is. You can actually look all the way down to the first floor. So this is how you are able to connect floors viewing from the upper floor downward. And again, we can build up to a 7-story project. And you also have the power in here. You may be aware of this 3D settings tab. There's cutaway walls. Cutaway walls will turn off the exterior walls between your camera and the target point that you're looking at. Again, you can save these with the Camera Plus up here for images and render these for whatever purpose of whatever you're trying to describe. I could go ahead and turn off the cutaway walls. And the show floors below also has a slider bar at the bottom that will allow you to explode the floors between floors, as you can see. And again, you can set these for a specific camera view and just go ahead and render these depending on what it is you're trying to communicate. So let me go ahead and close them back up and show floors below. Go back to 2D. And we're back to our room again. And this is where we're going to end for our advanced tools webinar for today. I'm going to show you a few more closing out images in our PowerPoint presentation. Just some points of reference is that always remember that you have over 200 some thousand generic assets inside Floor Planner, these objects of all different shapes and different classifications. Many of them can be resized, and sometimes you need something that's not in the library, but mix and match. You can take from different collections to make a composite and create your own item. You'll find that the objects are very friendly. They play very nice with each other. They will not cause any difficulties. So overlapping them, resizing them, use your imagination. You'd be surprised when you are in need of something to go to another classification, resize something to have an object that maybe is not in our library. The additional designs that we talked about earlier to do for a project, not just for showing different layouts for your client, but definitely for setting camera views. You may make a duplicate of your original design just for a camera view. So not to distort or corrupt your original design, you may want to take things out of the way. Like in this image, I took away a dining room table and a chandelier and a rug because I didn't want that in composition. It's still in my original design, but this was just a duplicate just for the camera. Did the same thing here. Field of view on your camera as you take your field of view smaller to keep things nice and linear so that nothing splays out. Nice vertical lines. You'll notice that with your field of view being smaller, it pushes your camera forward. And you're always trying to physically move your camera backwards. And sometimes you hit a wall behind you. Sometimes you might want to make a duplicate of the design just for the camera view again to stretch the wall behind you way backwards just to put your camera in the proper placement. For this image, I actually stretched the wall behind me that you cannot see because it's behind the camera 50 feet backwards just to put the camera in the proper position. Moving items around in 3D, awesome tool. Of course, artwork adheres to the wall. You can resize these items when you select them while you're in 3D and make your decisions for your design while you're in your 3D view. All these new 3D handles, they're awesome. Adding baseboards and trims, we talked about it earlier, but also adding light switches, mirrors. Be careful, mirrors will tell on you. They will reflect the other side of the room, always adding natural light, of course. Recessed can lights for the ceiling, for sure, turning them on and off, dimmer switches, getting them close enough to the wall makes some nice triangles of light reflections out there. Last image before we finish up. I use this as an example many times because I missed something on this image. It's a good image. Has a nice field of view, has a lot going on inside here, has all the lights, has the skirting boards, has coving at the top for its crown molding, has this really dark wood flooring, rendered nicely. I could have done better. And what I missed, I like to tell on myself, is I missed this beautiful Tudor window over here on the right-hand side that with the diamond pattern mullions that are inside there, I should have had the sunshine directed through these mullions to make a beautiful diamond pattern of sunlight on this dark floor in the foreground, which would have rolled across the carpet and up the sides of these brass high polished items and the navy velvet chair. This would have been beautiful. It wouldn't have changed my space planning. It wouldn't have changed the furniture selections, materials, finishes. It would have made a more artistic image. It would have been more impressionable. It would have been more inspiring to my client. I think it would have evoked a better feeling on the first pass. Um, so I'm sharing that with you because it was my missed opportunity. I don't want you to miss the opportunity because you can make as many renderings as you care to inside Floor Planner. So make the best rendering for your client and take advantage of all the tools that are available, certainly utilizing the natural sunlight in conjunction with putting artificial lighting inside the room. And don't forget that we do have our live webinar, which we will work on making a recording for you in the future on the 2D, 3D camera settings, which we offer on Wednesdays, to talk more in detail how to take advantage of lots of tips and tricks on placing your cameras properly to make more magazine quality images. Mission statement of Floor Planner, keeping it simple. Since 2007, making space planning and interior design accessible to everybody. Making a platform as Floor Planner to be user-friendly, basically intuitive, with little guidance, certainly through our webinars. To get you comfortable, to give you enough to get you started. I think you'll find that the rest will come very instinctively to you. But Floor Planner does keep evolving and it keeps getting better. And doing so, these magical features of Floor Planner, the complication of it is it's all happening in the Netherlands and by the programmers to make these really stunning renderings. From your side, from the platform side itself, we're keeping it simple. Our goal is to keep the platform simple and not to complicate it. So even though we keep adding additional features behind the scenes to give you a more dynamic, gorgeous image, your commands, simple toggle switches or buttons, we're going to keep that method going forward. Again, our goal is not to make another complex software out there with 700 filters that you have to choose from. Very simple choices on your end, and then let the magic happen behind the scenes to give you those gorgeous results. I hope you enjoyed your Floor Planner Advanced Tools webinar. I hope it's inspired you to take Floor Planner to the next level, maybe answer some questions for you that you may have had along the way. If there's anything I did not answer today, feel free to reach out to me at bob@floorplanner.com. Just drop me a simple email and I'll get you a response on that. Again, appreciate your time being with me today. Thank you.